Thanks for joining me inside of Animal Kingdom as we head on Kilimanjaro Safari.
Animals that live in these forests, they do have this striping pattern. Well, that is because the stripes break up their silhouette and makes it much more difficult for predators to spot them in the trees, especially at nighttime. Now, one of my favorite things about those bongos, though, is they are so heavily pigmented. If you touch their coat, it turns your hands orange. They are pretty amazing. Now, we're going to see a couple more pairs of stripes on our right-hand side. There's a greater kudu down there drinking out of the water. That's the tan-colored one with no horns. That means she is a female. And back behind her, I see two okapi hiding behind the bamboo. They are dark brown and they have black and white stripes on their hind legs. Kind of looks like they are wearing zebra pants. Don't let that fool you, though. They are not related to the zebra at all. The okapi is the only living relative of the giraffe. They do have a couple of common features like ossicles, where they both have tongues that are so long they can lick their own eyeballs. Super tasty. There's another greater kudu at the top of the hill on our right-hand side. A very common feature you'll see with the animals that live in these forests is really big ears. They have a really good sense of hearing. That includes the black rhinoceros to our left. It's across the water and it's laying in the shade. Kind of looks like a rock, but it is a rhino. Believe it or not, that is the smaller of the two types of rhinos that we have seen on the reserve. That's called a black rhino. The other type is a white rhino. Even bigger, but they like to live in more open grassland areas. So we'll see if we can catch a glimpse of any as we head out towards the savannah. I think we'll start making our way in that direction now, but on the way, let's just go stop by the Safi River. The last couple of evenings, I have been seeing a ton of hippopotamus in this area. I do say evenings specifically because hippopotamus are nocturnal animals. Who would have thought? Come on, out at nighttime to graze. Usually during the day, you'll find them sleeping in the water. Now, I do see one over our far right shoulder, but if you don't get a good view of the Hakuna Matata, no worries. We might be able to find some more farther downstream. I see a black vulture sunning its wings to the right. That white bird with the long neck is a great egret, and a couple pink-backed pelicans swimming through the water, using their big beaks to scoop stuff up. And look at that, a hippo swimming along with them. Hippos are pretty incredible animals. They do breathe air just like us, but they can actually sleep underwater. And we're getting a good example of that on our left side. Part of their brain stays awake when they're sleeping, so they can pop up to the surface to breathe without waking up at all. About every 8 minutes or so. Very sleepy. Some more of those pelicans, and I do want to point out a very interesting behavior they're doing. Look at those lower beaks, see how they're wobbling back and forth? Most birds will do that when they get too hot. They just cannot sweat to cool off like people do. But I highly encourage you, if you're taking a look at the birds that live near your house, see if you can see any of them doing that, especially on a warmer day like today. Here's another hippopotamus. Don't worry, all these birds are completely safe near hippos. The hippopotamus is an herbivore, so they only eat plants. In fact, these black vultures will eat the old skin and the insects right off of the hippos. Delicious. Keeps the hippo clean and it gives the bird a snack, so it's a really great symbiotic relationship. Total win-win situation. Now there are a couple of Nile crocodiles in the water to our left. And take a really close look at their mouth. See if you can spot the teeth sticking up from their bottom jaw over their upper lip with a little spike of white. That little tooth is actually one of the ways you can tell these are crocodiles and not alligators. You want to look at that toothy crocodile spot. Their mouths are a bit longer and pointier, but the easiest way to tell is that there are no alligators in Africa. The only place in the entire world you will find a crocodile and an alligator living together is at the southern tip of Florida, in the Everglades. Everywhere else, their habitats are completely separate. Speaking of habitats, ours is starting to change a little bit. The trees are thinning out. We are heading toward the savannah. This is home to some of Africa's most iconic wildlife. We'll see what we can spot. So far, right off the bat, I see a giraffe hiding among the trees. And there's a little herd of zebra down here too. Now there's a couple of different types of zebra, so we'll get closer and see what kind this is. Right, these are Hartman's mountain zebra. And the way you can tell is by looking at the stripes on their back legs. They're horizontal and they're pretty thick. Their stripes do not go all the way around their body, so they do have little white bellies. And if you take a close look at their throat, notice how there's a little extra patch of skin hanging down. That is called a dewlap. This is the only species of zebra in the world that has that. It's thought to help them regulate their body temperature a little bit. Okay, I see a couple of adult zebra over there, and there's actually two juveniles as well. There is one standing up and then one laying right in the grass. We're getting a little view of his rump from this angle. He's taking his snooze. Now those two juveniles, they are exactly 2 months apart. They're, I believe, about 2.5 and 4.5 months old at this point. So they're really not very old. They don't look super big right now, or they do look super big right now because when the zebras are first born, their leg length is pretty much the same length as an adult zebra. They got super long legs, so they can escape from predators. Now, some of those predators might include the animals we're seeing on the left-hand side. Down there in the den, there are some African wild dogs. They're commonly mistaken for hyenas, but they are a different species and pretty different from any pets you might have at home as well. The African wild dog is the most successful predator in Africa. And that's why we see a lot of animals that have built-in defense mechanisms. Great example of that to our left, the sable antelope with those beautiful curved horns. They use those for protection and defense. And they tend to be a little bit on the territorial side, so it's not unusual to see a few sables off on their own like that. Now look at that baby zebra on the right. She is fast asleep. really herd-oriented animals. They love to spend time around wildebeest. I actually see a couple of wildebeest up ahead. And they like to spend time with giraffes as well. And it makes a lot of sense. Giraffes are very tall. They've got good eyesight, so they're able to detect those predators the fastest out of any of these animals, and that helps keep everybody safe. They all kind of work together. Let's see, we're going to pull up towards a couple of these giraffes. Before we get to those giraffes, just take a look above your head. On that animal spotting guide there's a giraffe, known as a reticulated giraffe. It's very orange and its spots are very cleanly defined. Now let's compare that giraffe to the ones we're pulling up to. They look a little bit different. These are called Maasai giraffes, and in comparison, they're much darker brown and have very splotchy spots. A really easy way to remember it is Maasai giraffes have messy spots. Now we're seeing two younger females on our right, about 2 years old. A couple of females back in the trees that are mature. All kinds of wildebeest out here too. Now you can see she's moving her jaw. She's going to be eating for about 80% of her day. If you do the math, that does not leave much time for really anything else. Turns out, not too much of a problem. Giraffes only sleep about 30 minutes every single day. That is it. Doesn't take much to keep them well rested. Lots of wildebeest here. This is another herd-oriented animal. They move in huge migrations. Their annual migration is actually so big that we can see it from outer space, which is very impressive. The animal over there with the huge horns is called an Ankole cattle, only domesticated animal on the reserve. I know their horns look like they'd be super heavy, but they're mostly hollow inside. They're surprisingly lightweight, and they are packed full of blood vessels. When it's really hot out, like it is right now, the cattle's blood is pumping through their horns. That helps to cool them off. Like built-in air conditioning. Oh wow, look at this on the left, even more giraffes.
Wow.
Now, of course, the classic giraffe characteristic is that really long neck. But you may be surprised to know there are the exact same number of bones in a giraffe's neck as there are in humans. Both have 7. There's our colite a bit longer. Now, it does take a lot of effort for the blood in their body to pump all the way up that neck to get to their brain. And because of that, they have the largest heart of any animal that lives on land. Their heart weighs about 27 pounds. It's 2 feet long. It's even bigger than the heart of an elephant. Now, speaking of elephants, we're going to start moving north, heading into elephant territory. Now, hopefully we'll be able to spot an elephant at one of the watering holes later, but you never know what you're going to find. Now, elephants, they do move around quite a bit. They are a migratory species. And unfortunately, that's actually caused a lot of conflict with the people that live in their area. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a second, but before I do, take a look on your left. Way back in the ridge, there are a couple monkeys wandering around. Those are called mandrills. You might have spotted a view of a bright face or maybe a bright rear. They are the most colorful monkeys, and actually the largest monkey species in the entire world.
There's the elephants.
Now, I was hoping we might find an elephant. Take a look on your right-hand side. I see a really big male elephant. He is huge. Now, males like this, they do live by themselves for most of their lives. Once they're mature, they'll get kicked out of their herd. They live by themselves. Although on a very rare occasion, you might find something called a bachelor herd. It's where some of those males come together to brush up on their social skills a little bit, maybe practice some sparring. Those very long ago. Now it looks like he's kind of headed in the direction of the next watering hole. So let's see what we can find down there. A really big elephant like that, he will eat about 600 pounds of food every single day. Now imagine you're a farmer and a herd of elephants comes into your crop field. They will destroy months worth of your income in one foul swoop. It's just really not so good. And a lot of this conflict between humans and wildlife is what causes elephant poaching to happen. Now fortunately, we have learned some very information about the elephants that live here on the reserve that's helped us out. These elephants really do not like honeybees. If there's an area of the reserve that has a high abundance of honeybees, they will avoid it at all costs. We think it's probably because elephants have such good hearing. The buzzing sound is uncomfortable to them. Well, after realizing this, we started using resources from the Disney Conservation Fund to teach those farmers how to keep beehives and put them around their crop fields, and that keeps the elephants out in the first place. Major win-win situation there. The bees are going to pollinate the crops, and the farmers have honey to sell as an additional profit. It's by far my favorite project that we have come up with here. We've been able to protect the lives of thousands of elephants around the world with something we learned from that animal right there. How cool is that? Now it looks like there's a whole bunch of elephants over here, probably a couple of females, maybe some of their offspring. Now if you think back to when we saw the Ankoli cattle, the cows with the really big horns, I said they regulate their body temperature using the blood vessels in their horns. Elephants do the same thing with their ears. They are packed full of blood vessels. That's why you see them flapping them back and forth so much. Elephants are the only mammals that cannot sweat, so they really rely on those ears to roll up, or sometimes let them down for a little drink of the watering hole. That looks refreshing. A couple of flamingos are enjoying the water as well. Now you're going to see a couple little baby flamingos in there as well. They are gray. They are really, really fluffy. And it's kind of surprising. They are gray. They do not start to turn pink until they're 1.5 or even 2 years old. That's when they will start to eat things like shrimp and algae. That gives them that beautiful pink color. And we can see a couple adults here. They are eating right now. They shuffle their feet along the bottom of the water. It stirs up all that good stuff. And then they use their feet to skim it off of the surface. I think it makes them look like they're doing a little moonwalk though. It's very impressive. They are just in time. Looks like a rhino spa day. Look at that. Two southern white rhinos enjoying a mud wallow. Now that is how they're going to stay nice and cool. That mud also will help to protect their skin against insect bites. Just having a nice spa day right now. Oftentimes they'll let that mud dry, and then they'll rub it off on the trees and rocks in the area as kind of a natural exfoliant. Earlier, we did see a black rhino in the forest. These are the southern white rhinos, which are much larger, a lot more social. And if you look at their mouth, see how wide and boxy it is? It's perfect for grazing on grasses, and that's where they get their name from, the white rhino. The Afrikaans word for wide is white, and that was misinterpreted for the word white so many times that I kind of... Now, rhinoceros are one of few animals we tend to find this far east into the reserve. We're headed right into predator territory. Not many animals like coming this far in, but lucky for rhinos, they're so big, they just don't have any natural predators at all. So keep your eyes peeled in the shadows. Finding predators midday is very, very tricky. Most of them are nocturnal, so they're only active in the middle of the night and prefer to sleep in the clearing on the left side of the truck. Find the two trees that are farthest right and look straight between them. There is a cheetah laying on the ground.
And you parked right where I can't see it.
A little bit of his belly from here.
Oh, it's right behind the trees. So I can't. There it is.
It is just sleeping away. That is to be expected of a predator like that. It's a huge contrast to something like a giraffe. A giraffe eats 20 hours a day, sleeps 30 minutes. Something like a cheetah, they're going to sleep about 20 hours a day and eat maybe every couple of days or even every couple of weeks. They just have very different lifestyle strategies. Occasionally you can find predators on the cookie road to our left, so we'll keep our eyes on. We'll see another one of the southern white rhinos to the right. And as we move by them, just watch their ears. They perk up and they rotate, little satellite dishes. Their hearing has to be really good because their eyesight is really not so good. From this distance, those rhinos cannot see us. And that's probably why a group of rhinos is called a crash of rhinos. They really can't see much, and they can charge at 35 miles per hour. So the rocks are looking a little bit quiet right now, so let's see if we can find around the corner. They're going to be on our right-hand side. At Bontebok, they are beautiful animals when the sun hits them just right. Their coat has a purple sheen to it. Tail Bontebok there. The horns, lots more of those southern white rhinos. And there is a beautiful ostrich back there as well. Now you can tell that she is a girl ostrich because her feathers are gray. And you can also tell because there's a huge clutch of ostrich eggs right there on the ground. Now she did not lay all of those. She will have laid one. All the other ostriches on the reserve, though, they will lay their eggs together in that same exact spot. They're communal nesters. They take turns checking up on them periodically. Looks like she has the afternoon shift. But for real, they just leave them on the ground like that. It's called a stump nest. We can get away with it because each of those eggs is so strong that an adult human can stand on them and they won't even crack. You're pretty good to go, even if they're unattended. I personally have only ever seen a female ostrich on the reserve, so chances are those eggs, they are not fertilized. There are no babies in them. But they keep laying them just like chickens do. They would make them rather large omelets, though. Each of those eggs is the equivalent of 2 dozen chicken eggs. They are absolutely gigantic. And we're just rolling through the Lagati one now. I see one animal coming up on our left-hand side. So it's a good one too. This is called the scimitar horned oryx. One of my favorite animals because their conservation history is just really amazing. Back in 1979, the scimitar horned oryx was poached to extinction in the wild. But because the reserve was this one and a lot of work through human care, we were able to increase their population and re-release that species to the wild in 2013. And we literally brought them back from the brink of extinction. And that is a huge testament to what we can do when we work together to help these animals out. So even if we don't live very close to these animals, just remember that conservation truly does begin at home. And all the little steps you take, like reducing your waste, recycling, or even making your backyard a habitat that's friendly for your neighborhood wildlife, is a really great way to start your conservation journey. I highly encourage you to make sure you're taking time to get outside and really
I hope you enjoyed this bit of pixie dust from a Texan. If you did, be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel, Texie Dust. I hope y'all come back next week for the last park of my trip, Epcot. Till then, here's some videos you can click on.